Okay. Hey everybody, if you caught my post right before this, you saw my little crazy ass cherry tree that I made. Still had all those cherries left over, so what I'm going to make for you tonight is a nice cherry pie. A nice cool summer dessert here. I also thought this would be a really great opportunity to show you how to make a really basic pie crust that you can use for sweet, savory, whatever you want to use it for. So if you come over here to the bowl with all the flour in there, it's just all-purpose flour. We've got a pinch of salt in there. And then since we're doing a sweet dessert with this, I added a 1/4 cup of sugar to that. If you don't have a sifter, which I don't, just use a big balloon whisk like that. Kind of mix it all together just to make sure it's pretty well incorporated. Also, it just adds a little bit of air to that flour so it stays nice and flaky when it all gets mixed together. Okay. So once you've got all that mixed together, you're going to add your butter to that. It's really important that your butter stays really well chilled. And the reason being is that as this bakes, it's that butter that melts down and lets off steam. And when that steam comes off that butter, that's what makes the pastry crust really flaky. So you don't want it to melt down. So with that said, two tools become really essential here. Pastry blender, or if you have room, which obviously I don't in my kitchen, a food processor works really well for this. So what you're going to do first, just to make it easier to blend the butter into the flour, just kind of chop it up. Again, just using a knife, you want to keep your hands off of it as much as possible. A little paring knife is pretty perfect for that. And that's 3/4 of a cup of butter, basically a stick and a half. Okay, so we'll set that aside. I'm just using a pastry blender, just going to start kind of mashing it down in. It's also a really great way to get your arm workout in for the day. And you want to keep doing this until you get these little tiny pea-sized chunks of butter in there. You want to work pretty quickly too, because the longer that butter has to come to room temperature, the less likely you're going to have a really nice flaky crust when you're done with this. Okay. Alright, that looks pretty good. Good enough at least. Alright, so now we're going to add ice water to this. It doesn't take much when you're making a pie crust. It literally has to be ice water, so I've just got looks like 4 tablespoons of water measured out here. Probably not going to use all of it, just a few tablespoons is all you usually need to bring that together. Okay, so now you're just going to just sort of get in there with your hands. Kind of toss it together, and it's not going to form like a really tight ball like a lot of people think is going to happen. Just keep mixing it and mixing it and mixing it. I need just a touch more water here. You can see it's still really dry and kind of, you know, powdery, but if you grab it and just sort of squeeze it together, it forms a dough like that. So what we're going to do with it at this point is just kind of toss it out into the counter. Okay, and just sort of squeeze it all together. Nice tight ball like that. Okay, so now we're ready to wrap this. Okay. Plastic wrap somewhere here. Okay. Probably should have had this ready before I made the dough, but it's alright. It's an easy enough mess to clean up. Okay, so I'm just going to lift that up. Just going to throw it down in there. Grab the rest of this. Really nice and tight. Just go ahead and wrap it up. Okay, and that's pretty good to go. So now we're just going to take this and throw this in the refrigerator. I'll wash my hands real quick and then we're going to get started on the filling. Alright, so you can see here I've already started pitting and stemming all these cherries. Sort of a process. If you want to avoid this, you can certainly buy frozen cherries, but basically just using a cherry pitter. I happen to have this really cute one. Just kind of take those pits out. It's kind of a fun thing for the kids to do if they want to help you in the kitchen. Or if you got a boyfriend or girlfriend that doesn't really cook much, you can always put them to work here. Okay. Alright, so these are just going to go now into a pot. Okay, I've got just water here, a couple cups of water. And to that I'm going to add a tablespoon of cornstarch. You always want to use cornstarch with cold liquids, otherwise it won't dissolve. If you add it to a hot liquid, it just has a tendency to clump up and it's not very appetizing. Okay, so just sort of blend that together. The cornstarch is what's really going to thicken this sauce up and give it that nice glossy finish that it's always nice in a cherry pie. So just throw that in there. Now we're going to add about a cup of sugar. And the amount of sugar can definitely be adjusted to what you like. I know some people don't really like super sweet things, so you can go a little bit lighter on the sugar here if you wanted to. So at this point we're just going to turn that on, kick it up to high, let it boil away. You want that liquid to reduce down by about half, and that's going to be ready to go into that pie. So we'll take a break while that's happening and come back and I will get that pie put together for you. Alright, we're back. I've got the pie dough, just pull that out of the freezer. So what we're going to do with it now, just kind of split it in half, and then we're going to just press that down into a pie plate, just sort of just work it by hand. Okay. Alright, so that looks pretty good. What we have to do now is par bake this. If we go ahead and fill this with this cherry pie filling right now, what's going to happen is it's going to stay really raw on the inside. So to do that, I'm just going to grab a fork now and just sort of just poke the bottom of it. And what these little holes are going to do is prevent air from forming underneath that and causing it to bubble up too much. You want it to stay nice and flat. Okay, so now this is going to go into the oven. Okay. And we'll bake that now just like 5-10 minutes or so, just until it gets lightly golden. Once it gets to that point, we're ready to fill it. Okay, so I just pulled the par-baked pie crust out of the oven. You can see it there, a little bit golden brown on the top, nice and golden in the center. So we're going to go ahead and throw our cherry pie filling that we've made right down in the center of all that. Just spread it out. Yum, yum, yum. and I felt a little bit short on the pie dough, so what we're going to do instead is a little bit of a streusel topping for this. We've got brown sugar, almonds, let's see, a little bit of flour in there, butter. I'm just going to start chopping all that together with our pastry blender. Same sort of concept as the pie crust. Again, you just want that butter to be sort of pea-sized little chunks. Okay. Alright, so that's that, nice and easy. So now we're just going to take all this and throw it on top of our cherries there. Okay. Should make a nice little topping for our pie. The pie filling's already done. All you're looking for at this point is you want this butter that's on this topping to sort of melt down, get all this really nice and golden brown, and also help that form a crust on top. And that is pretty much ready to go. We're just going to throw that in the oven, let it finish up. I will have pictures of it when it's done for you on the bottom of the blog post. I hope you enjoy.